Welcome to the Legal Leaders Podcast, LawVu's community for in-house legal professionals. LawVu's mission is to accelerate the evolution of the in-house legal profession, and with this podcast, we showcase modern legal leaders from across the globe. We explore their unique journeys and how they're driving the transformation of our new profession. Join David Lancelot, LawVu's Chief Legal Officer and Executive Vice President of Advocacy, as he explores the cutting edge of in-house legal leadership. This is the Legal Leaders Podcast.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Legal Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, David Lancelot, the CLO and EVP Advocacy at LawVu. I have the great pleasure to have back with me today Sterling Miller. We recently did an episode talking about generative AI, which was really fun. Thank you, Sterling, for joining me there. And we're now going to record a second episode because I wanted to pivot to a very different topic, but I absolutely want to have the conversation with Sterling again. So thanks for coming back, Sterling. Much appreciated.
Yeah, excited to be back.
So Sterling, for those of you who don't know, maybe you haven't listened to the previous episode, Sterling was the general counsel of a number of well-known companies, including Sabre and Travelocity. And now he is the CEO and chief counsel at Hilgers, which is a law firm based out of Nebraska, right?
Yes, the heartland. That's right. Where I grew up.
So
my people and cows, lots of cows.
Nice. And Hilgers Graben is a I think best described as top quality law firm with much reduced pricing.
That's a great elevator pitch. I'm going to steal that. Yeah, same lawyers, half the price. There you go.
You can tell that Sterling and I know each other pretty well. That I can do his pitch
Yes.
off the top.
You're hired.
Of my bald head. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that Sterling talks about quite a lot with in-house legal teams around the world, and I'm really interested to get his take on it because this is something that I've thought about a lot throughout my career, and I've spoken to a lot of people about, and it's how does an in-house lawyer with the DNA that we have, I'd like to say, which is sort of the harder you work, the better you are. Very much a merit-based, come out of law school, go to the law firm, work real hard, and you'll move up the ranks. How does an in-house lawyer move from that mode to what you need in a business, which is some element of self-promotion, right, to get ahead? Sterling, over to you.
It's hard. Lawyers are not natural marketers. Didn't go to law school to be a marketing person, but one of the things I learned from 25 years in-house is if you are not marketing, you are losing. You're losing the battle. And you may ask, well, why is that? So there are two things. One, if you think the business is recognizing all the awesome work from the legal department all the time, they're not. The harshest way to say it is they don't care. They care that things get done, but they got so many other things on their plate that they're really not spending a lot of time going, damn, you got a kick-ass legal team. You might get that, but unless you are telling the business, here's what we are doing, and here's why it matters, and here's why it's valuable, you are missing out on not only the ability for the business to appreciate what you're doing, but to make them want to give you more resources, which is, I think, one of the hardest things for legal departments to do. Give me more people, give me more money. Well, why? Because if you can show for every dollar you put into legal, I can get you $2, right? And one of my favorite sayings, I would, always at the end of the quarter, end of the year, well, if I had another lawyer, I probably could have got you another $1 million in contracts done before the quarter closed. But I don't have the bodies, and there's only so many hands you can get under the hood. When the sales team hears that, they start going, we need more lawyers. And that's when they appreciate what you're doing and what the value is. But even harder than that, I think what we'll talk about today is that's the department. But what about yourself? And it's a little bit of the same thing. If you think anyone outside of the legal department knows how good of a lawyer you are because you're technically awesome, they don't. You could be on the Supreme Court. You could be on the People's Court. They don't know. They only know, are you responsive? Are you creative? Are you easy to deal with? Do you keep your word? Those are all soft skills. There's no legal skills that the business is judging you on unless you have a very unique situation, or maybe there's a former lawyer sitting in a C-suite role who can actually read something and go, okay, this was really great or not. Otherwise, it's perception. And in a law firm, as you were talking about, yeah, you bill 2,200 hours, 2,300 hours, you're going to get rewarded, because it's just effort, right? That effort is easily converted into money. Someone billing 2,200 hours at a law firm is a moneymaker day in and day out. I can look at your work as a lawyer in a law firm and know if it's good or not, because we're all lawyers. And that's a unique situation. When you bring that skill in-house, you don't have that. So you have to understand, yes, there are quantitative measurements, right? You can say we did 1,000 contracts this month or this quarter or whatever the measurement is. That's cool, but it's qualitative as much as it is quantitative. And that qualitative stuff really depends on perception and your ability to get out there and tout in a non-arrogant way. Here's all the cool stuff we're doing. Here's the stuff that I'm doing to make myself valuable to the business. And once that kind of dawns on you, which it did early in my career, it's like, okay, you really have no idea if I'm a good lawyer or not. It really is going to come down to these things. And you start to do those things. That's when the perception of you is like, who's really good? That Sterling guy. And my introduction to that was, I think, one of the first, I think most businesses have these, they call them 9-box meetings. And there's a grid, and it's high performer, good, high, I can't remember what the axes are, but you want to be in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah,
and you're going around the room. It's across company, right? So you could be talking about the lawyers, and if no one's heard of you, ever dealt with you, you're probably either in the middle, or God forbid, you're going to be in the lower left, because like, yeah, who's that guy? If they've heard of you, it's more likely than not that they're going to, I like Sterling. And why do I like Sterling? Again, not because of legal skills, because he's hardworking, he's diligent, he's whatever the case may be. So when you understand that, then you understand that every interaction you have with the business is an opportunity to market yourself in some way. Again, not, hey, I'm the greatest lawyer you've ever seen or met, but how can I help you? Hey, can I come to your staff meeting and talk a little bit about these contracts and how we can make them go faster? Wow, we had this big M&A deal. Let's do a postmortem. Let's go through what worked and what we can improve on next time. None of those are purely legal skills, but they're ways to get noticed by the business as someone who's adding value. And the most important thing is you understand how the business makes money. How does the business work? You don't understand that, you're never going to be seen as someone who's really valuable to the business, because you can't talk the language. You can't sit down with them and go, oh yeah, I see what we're trying to do with the revenues here, and revenue recognition or costs or whatever the case may be. Oh, we're going to focus on EBITDA. All right, I know what that is, or CAGR, or whatever formula they're checking out there. If you understand that, they're going to know that. And Sterling's going to give me legal advice that fits within the realities of how the business actually operates, and not like he's ticking off issues in a law school exam. because that's what a lot of lawyers do. They're spotting all the legal issues and they're excited. And I get it. You should be excited, right? You're spotting this one, this one, this one. That's great if you're taking a law school exam or you're writing a brief for a partner in a law firm. But when you're in a company, you got to throw out all the crap and go, these are the three things that matter. And I understand what you want to do, and lead with, here's how we're going to do it, not with, these are all the reasons why we can't do it. If you're leading with can't, they're going to start dismissing you, and they're either not going to want you around, or they're just going to go, God, Sterling, everything's a problem with Sterling. He never brings a solution to the table. So start off with, okay, I hear you. I know what you're trying to do. We can do it this way, little risky. We can do it this way, pretty safe, but we're going to have to do some work here. Or we can be aggressive as hell, guys. But I got to tell you, there's some downsides. Let's go through those. And if we want to take that risk, great. We'll do everything we can to minimize it. But, we all understand there's some risk here. Let's go. That is a different way of approaching problem solving than most lawyers bring to the table, which is, you can't do that. And I got to tell you, the number of times you should be saying you can't do that better be far and in between, because unless it's criminal or it's going to violate an ethical canon, or someone's going to get hurt, or, it's going to violate the law, there's not many times when you say you can't do that. It may be, that's risky. What do you want to do? And here's my recommendation. But saying, nope, not going to let you do that, that's not legal's role. Legal doesn't run the business.
Still drafting contracts the hard way? With LawVu Draft, your team can create, review, and finalize contracts faster, work smarter, stay consistent, and reduce risk. Start your 14-day trial today at lawvudraft.com.
Yeah, and I think it's all part of the fundamental sort of realignment of incentives that you get when you move from private practice in-house, where you go from being you're being paid to go to the nth degree of detail to find every possible issue that could arise and point it out and protect. You're basically protecting the law firm from liability by pointing out every issue that you could find. And the law firm has no incentive to deeply understand the business. In a traditional firm, not talking about the firm where you're at, but they really have no incentive to do what they would call the unbillable work, right? And so you take somebody out of that environment, and the longer they're there, I think the more institutionalized they become, and the harder it is to deprogram them, I'd say. And you move them into this environment where the incentives are basically the opposite, where your goal is, as you said, to lead with solutions, to lead with, this is how we can do it. And if you understand that is your role, you'll have great success. But I think the vast majority of in-house lawyers have traditionally not been given that model and have run into this sort of titanium wall, which can be very demoralizing when it happens.
Yes. They don't train you in law school for any of this. There's no real business training. At least there wasn't when I was in law school, and I still ask people this question all the time. I don't think it's changed. Maybe there's a seminar. Maybe you'll get someone in-house who's teaching a little bit about it in your third year in a course, meets once a week, like you. I'm sure that's really valuable. But man, they should be doing it from year one, year two,
year. Totally.
Through year three. Certainly not going to do it at a law firm, because for all the reasons you said, they don't want you to sort out the stuff that really doesn't matter and focus on the things that do. And what so when I started figuring this out, it's like, oh man, I guess the way I would sum it up is I had to stop talking and writing like a lawyer, which is really hard because you spent all this time and money learning how to do all those things, learning how to do that in law school, getting praised to the nth degree at a law firm for your memo, for your contract, for your brief, whatever, and then going to a place where no one cares about Blue Book or footnotes or secondary sources. They just want the answer in as simple and plain of a way that you can possibly do it. So I hired a lot of lawyers over 25 years, and anyone I hired from a big law firm, I would say, okay, for the first week or two, anything of substance, bring that to me. Let's go through it together. Very insulted, right? Oh, I've been a lawyer for 15 years and blah, blah. Oh, I know. That's why I want to see everything you're going to write. And of course it was, 20 pages. It was all kinds of obscure tangents and Latin and jargon. And I just go, nope, not doing that. And I have to explain to them. And even after you explain it to them, it still just takes a while to undo that and to learn to write and speak in a way that is businessy. You are a business person with a law degree. Communicate like a business person. See how everyone is communicating around you. And that's when it started to dawn on me. I'd be sitting in these meetings and it was my term. I'd be basically either talking from something, or maybe I'd have a black and white PowerPoint up there with a lot of text. And then the marketing guys would get up, or the sales team, they'd have all these cool graphics and sliding things. And I thought, damn, that's what I need to be doing. And when I realized that, I had to go find some people like, hey, can you teach me, or can you help me create? These are really dashboards. Well, some of the first we weren't even calling them dashboards, but I knew what the business was creating. I want to create color. I want to create excitement about the legal department. How do I do that? And then you start thinking like a salesperson. I'm going to sell you on legal, which was something if you ever met anyone on my team, we would talk about this every department meeting we would have. At some point I would say, always be marketing the legal department, just like Glenn Ross. Any opportunity, again, to talk about, hey, we can help you with that. What do you need? How can I be helpful? What are your pain points? What are we doing that is causing you problems that maybe we can stop doing? Not guaranteeing that. The mere fact that you ask those things and you bring those things forward, the business appreciates. Like, hey, Sterling's trying to find a way to work more closely and better with the business. So adapting to that new environment where, again, you're a part of a business now. And I saw, even in myself in some of the early days, kind of thinking of legal as over here. I'm going to take this to legal. I'm going to give this to legal. Well, when you think about that, which I did, you're really basically just saying, well, legal's just a captive law firm. And if it's a captive law firm, then it's just a law firm, which is doing all the things that we were just talking about a few minutes ago, trying to avoid all risk, covering their asses, just, talking like lawyers, writing like lawyers. Everyone is happy in the lawyer world. No, you want legal embedded in part of the business. We need Sterling from legal. We need Karen from legal. Whatever, you want them to pull you in because you add things to the conversation, and they may not necessarily be legal. They certainly want you for that, but that's pretty boring. If you're in-house and your only job is legal issue, not legal issue, don't care. You're swiping left the whole time. No. Wait a minute. What was that? Don't you have any, are you curious about this? And do you have a position? And I'm willing to bet your listeners do, because you're very smart, highly educated people. You probably read a lot. You observe the world. You deal with uncertainty every day. Bring that to the table. That's what they're looking for. And that's part of marketing yourself to the business. I can help you with more than just writing this contract. I can help you negotiate it. I can take whatever this piece of crap contract we've been using for the last 10 years, I can turn this into English that people can understand and want to sign. Why why don't we make our agreements easier to sign versus let's add 10 more pages to it. So there's no possible way anything could ever go wrong other than, when you hand that over to the other side, it's coming back dripping in red because no one's going to sign it. Right. It's like
Yeah.
this super one-sided, unbelievably, horrible agreement for you. I mean, like, okay, so no mutual caps on liability, no mutual indemnities. I mean, everything is so one-sided. You almost laugh at it because if you didn't know. So don't do that. Think differently. I want to do the deal. How can I do this deal faster, easier, less friction on me and my team, less friction on the business, and most importantly, less friction for the customer. We want customers. That's how we make money. That's how we get bonuses. That's how you get stock options. All that depends on people buying your products and your services. What can you do to make that go faster? So I loved going talking to the business. What can we do to help? What can we do to make your life easier? And boy, a lot of them would say that's the first time anyone from legal's ever asked me that question, Sterling.
Yes. And
Wow.
I think previously there wasn't such a driver coming from disruption. Now, in an age of AI,
Yeah.
if you're not integrated with the business, if you're not, if they're not wondering why isn't Sterling in this meeting, you're going to have a lot of trouble very shortly being in any meeting because they're going to be getting scaled responses from a machine that will do a lot of the work that you felt was sort of your area of expertise previously. So I think it's really fundamental these days to the role of in-house counsel to be understanding that a significant portion of their job is building an understanding of the business as deeply as possible, products, financials, et cetera, having a lot of coffees, whether that's virtual or in real life, visiting facilities, really getting embedded, because the one thing the machines don't have is context.
Yes.
We have the context. We know about the almost in some cases emotional relationships with third parties, with internal parties, and we can navigate those with our incredibly powerful layer of substantive legal expertise for the business. A machine can't do that. So be the lawyer who does understand the value of that context, the value of those relationships and that trust, because that's going to become more and more important every single day as AI becomes more a part of our business lives.
Oh, absolutely right. Developing that EQ, where, again, people like talking to you. People want to work with you. You're right. If all you're doing is checking over a contract, they can get that from a machine. And they will get that from a machine. But if you say, hey, I can help you negotiate this. I can, let's sit down and talk through who we're going to be meeting with tomorrow and what do we know about them. And those are things that you can add both from just your legal experience and negotiating experience, from your judgment. I mean, AI has no judgment. It has no ethics. It's just a tool.
Indeed.
So how do you, but it's a valuable tool. And I think that goes back to, that discussion we had and the last time we got together, David, of, the business is expecting you to use AI. They don't really know necessarily how you're going to use it, but I would want to be showing up like, hey, yeah, we've used AI to do some of the grunt work here because that's going to free us up now. We can have this strategic conversation. We can have this conversation about pros and cons, context, all those things really make a huge difference. And you also focused on another thing about marketing yourself, is the relationships. And a lot of lawyers aren't necessarily either thinking about building relationships, and some aren't comfortable building relationships. They would rather stay in their space and just do the work. And you can get by doing that, but you're not going to get ahead doing that. So if your goal is, I just want to keep my job, and I'm happy where I am, and that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. Then you can get away with really not poking your head out, doing things. But if you want to be general counsel, you want to be someone who's has a seat at the table, they have to invite you. And to invite you, they have to like you and trust you and think you're going to add something to the conversation. And the only way they know that is that they have spent some time with you. It could be lunch, it could be coffee, it could be you're holed up in a hotel room together because you're negotiating a deal. I can remember lots of crazy things that we went through with the business. And it's like any experience you have where you're with a group of people, you have that bond because you went through that big piece of litigation, that big negotiation. Yeah. Remember we stayed up all night and, we were, chucking coffees off the roof at people below, whatever. That didn't really happen as far as anyone knows. But, those experiences, those experiences matter, and taking advantage of those, that's that relationship building. If you're not good at it, you got to get good at it. And I tell people, well, I'm not going to have anything to talk about if I go to lunch with this person. I don't know them. I go, one question, and this will kill the entire hour, if not more. Ask them how they got here. How did you get to this company? Tell me your path. Oh my God. School, family, prior jobs, what they like about jobs. I mean, you're not gonna be able to get them to shut up. That's the one question you need. And once you start having that type of conversation, it's just going to get easier and easier. So those relationships, super critical to marketing.
Yeah. I think you've got to build rapport before you get to trust. And rapport building is just all about conversations, putting yourself out there. And I think, one of the, I don't know if this is a tip or a trick or whatever. It's just, I think, basic business skills now, but to find the person who is developing the strategy for the organization or the team, depending on if you're at an organization that's big enough to have people like that, right? Maybe it's just the head of sales, but maybe it's the head of strategy, and reaching out to them and saying, could we have a conversation, right? Like I'm in the legal function. I'd really like to understand the strategy of this business. I've read all the filings. I know all the products, of course, but I'd really like to, do you have a deck maybe you could share with me? Do you have something that we could talk about? And then, really get into that and study that and build a relationship with that person. I think that pays enormous dividends.
Absolutely. I love talking to the strategy people, seeing the decks, understanding or trying to understand where's the company going. I never had anyone ever turn me down, ever.
Yeah, no, and they love talking about it, right?
They love talking about it. Yeah, they'll tell you why it's important, and yeah, and it also, if you think about it, just from a legal leadership standpoint, if I know where the company is going in 5 years, is the legal team ready for that? Are like, hey, these are the new markets we're going to go into geographically. Oh man, we're going to go into Brazil. Do we need a Portuguese speaking lawyer? Do we need someone who understands Brazilian law? Do we need a law firm in Brazil? I mean, those are things you should be thinking about besides just going, okay, that's wow. Or we're going to get into this product. Is this regulated? Do we need to have some, we need to start understanding the regulatory regime around here. So getting those early tips as to where the company is focusing allows you to be better prepared for when that day actually comes, because the worst place to be is, hey, we're going into Brazil tomorrow. Anything we need to know? Oh, crap. If only I'd known this from 3 years ago.
Nobody has perfect information, and businesses will do crazy things, and everyone should be prepared for the call about how we're already in Brazil for the past 10 years, and we just wanted to tell you. That is totally cool. That is totally cool. And one of those moments where you can use another part of your skill set, which is that I've seen it all before face.
Yes.
I find that's just another thing that you kind of have to learn with time, but is absolutely how everyone wants you to show up to pretty much every meeting, right? Like, I've seen it all before. Don't worry.
Yeah.
This is a lot like GDPR. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. That poker face, even if inside you're going, oh my God.
OMG. Yep.
You just go, yeah, all right. Yeah, we can work with that.
We can figure this out. Don't
We
worry.
can figure that
It
one
can't
out.
be as
Yeah.
bad as the last thing you guys brought to us, which I also didn't freak out about. But I think it's a great point to put yourself out there, to build rapport, to build trust, to build your knowledge of the business, to understand the strategy of the organization, so that you can then come into those meetings at whatever level you're at with something to add. And I think the other thing I'd say is, in those meetings, I've spoken to so many business people over the years about, they would give feedback on my team and say, blah, 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 this person's great. We just like them to be more strategic. And after a while, I had to ask, like, what do you mean?
What do
Like,
you
you
mean
keep
by
saying that, right? I feel like my people are some of the most strategic around, right? Like, they're super embedded. They're off with you at the offsite in Mexico City. They're basically running the business with you. How could they be more strategic? And what they really meant was, we want them to challenge us on business initiatives, right? We want them to sit at the table and go well outside of their swim lane, just like we want everybody else on this team to do, right? Whether it's the person doing product development or the CEO and the COO, they want input on, is this a good idea, right? And to come to the table with a lot more than, as we were discussing, that's a bad idea, right? There's risk there. That doesn't help anybody. What they want is, hey, this is a great idea. And have you heard what the Australians are doing? There's some really interesting stuff going on in that market. Do you want me to connect you? I was just having a chat with the head of strategy over there. That kind of stuff gets you in the room and will get you a ton more exposure in the organization, and is exactly the kind of thing that what you were talking about before, Sterling. When they have that 9-box meeting, they'll go, wow, Sterling's the guy who always seems to have those really valuable comments. He never says we can't do it. And then maybe that's one thing that we should touch on maybe before we close, Sterling, is the things not to say in the room, right? I think that's probably something worth touching on. What would you say to that? Things not to say in the room.
I would avoid saying no as much as you possibly can.
Unless you absolutely have to. Yeah.
Unless you absolutely have to. It can be yes, but I think saying, you throwing up your hands, going,
oh my gosh, trademark issue. Oh my gosh.
Or there's
I've spotted a risk.
I spotted a risk. So spotting legal things, you want to pick your spots, right? A lot of things I would just jot down on a piece of paper, and I would go see whoever afterwards and go, we really want to think through some of these trademark issues. But interrupting the meeting, you kind of have to understand, is this so important that I have to stop the meeting to say, I spotted this legal issue, or can it wait? And the other thing is, we're so busy. There's no way we could possibly take on any more in legal.
Yes, indeed.
Now that may be true, and I completely understand it. That's another conversation either for later, because it's going to have to be, look, we've got so much cool stuff going on. Here's the list. But in order to do this, we're going to have to put something else on the back burner.
Yep.
Let's think through what that's going to be.
What are your priorities? Yeah.
What are your priorities? We want to make sure this sounds like it's going to be the new number one. So that pushes everything down. Yep. And then are we kind of all holding hands together that, yes, legal is going to focus on these, because I'm going to get pressure from other parts of the business going, where's my deal? Hey, you got knocked out by this deal. And if you think your deal should be up higher, I'm all for that. Let's go talk to the CEO and see where we want to put the deal. You may go, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Well, then your deal's not really number one. But if they say, yeah, we absolutely need to go do that, great. Have the conversation. There's nothing bad about that conversation of what should the priorities be. The business is doing that all day long. What are our priorities in sales? What are our priorities in product? What are our priorities in marketing? Legal's no different. We should have priorities, They should match the business. And if they don't match the business, then you're out of whack. And they're thinking of legal as, what are these guys doing? They're not working on the stuff that matters. So that's, again, part of that marketing. And then, one of the things you mentioned, I think, David, as we started, that external marketing and kind of to shift gears here for just a second. I loved working at all the different companies that I worked at. I thought they were great jobs. I loved people. But I always had my eye on what else might be out there. And wasn't always just proactively looking, but I made sure I had a current resume. I made sure my LinkedIn profile was not saying open to opportunities, which you don't want to do, but was top notch, right? It was describing me in a way that if there was someone out there who was looking for someone, they might reach out to me, because that's typically how they do it. It's probably going to be LinkedIn, maybe a recruiter. And hey, we got this opportunity. Are you interested? Most of the time, no. Every once in a while, like, yeah, tell me about it. Because I swear to God, if Fender Guitars had come to me and said, we want you to be the general counsel, I would have walked away. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go where the guitars are. So,
Yeah, I think I've told you
a
this.
professional football team, as you can tell by the helmets in the back. Those are dream jobs
Yep.
that you never know if someone's looking, they're going to find you. So there's not only that marketing internally, which is really important from a day-to-day standpoint, but in terms of your overall life and what is best for you, what is best for your family, I think you always want to make yourself open, keep yourself open to opportunities and hear what those are. And the only way you're going to do that is to make sure that you are setting yourself up publicly as someone who might be of interest to someone, be asked. So again, you don't have to do what I do and write 5,000 word blogs. You can comment on LinkedIn, you can publish things, you could start a blog. I mean, you could do a million different things. You can join local organizations, non-for-profits. There's a lot of ways to put yourself out there and market yourself that aren't just screaming, I hate my job and I want to leave. But if you need someone cool, you need someone good, and it's the right opportunity, yeah, I want to hear about it. And maybe I'll jump in and maybe not.
Yeah,
But you got to put yourself out.
And it's so much easier now to have a public profile, particularly with LinkedIn, but also with there's so many in-house legal communities, right? I mean, take your pick. There's so many and I think the key for that is just to say to whoever's organizing whatever it is, I am available. I am available, because I organize all kinds of events all the time, right? I attend, as do you, do all kinds of events. And the key thing that I'm looking for is somebody to just say, I'll be on the panel. I'll help with the organization.
I'll help.
If you've got a sponsor for something, I'll join their panel, right? And then knowing that at that point, you're able to promote that participation. Right. It's as easy as taking a picture of yourself in a venue and posting it on LinkedIn and saying, hey, this was really interesting. And then pinning it to your LinkedIn profile so that it stays there, so that when somebody does come knocking at your shop window, they see, Sterling is somebody who gets out there. Sterling is somebody who has network. Sterling is somebody who has something to say. And that's the kind of people we're looking for. Right. That's the kind of people they're always looking for.
Yeah. And I can remember this one war story. So we were looking for an assistant corporate secretary, I guess, when we were going public, and we were interviewing a bunch of people. I was going to be the corporate secretary, but I had prior to that time had not been a public company secretary. So we're going to hire someone with that skill set. We interviewed a lot of people who were great. The one that everybody loved had on his resume, president of the local, it was the corporate secretary association. And of course, as a lawyer, you go, yeah, okay, anyone can join those things, or they're not to the business. This guy was the president of the local chapter. They loved him, right? And he was the right person anyway. But that was another light bulb moment for me. Like, these things matter. Those those certifications, those participation in whatever, you never know who's going to see that and go, that is really impressive to me. Because you're going to interview, if you're going for a big job, you're going to interview with more than just someone in the legal department. You're probably going to interview with people in the business, and they will note that, and they will be impressed by those. So those are absolutely, there's so many ways now to market yourself and get out there to make yourself more appealing and a better candidate.
100%. Well, as always, Sterling, great conversation. I really appreciate your time and your tips. Look forward to seeing you again soon. And thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for joining us on the Legal Leaders Podcast. And in particular, Sterling Miller.
Thank you. All right.
And we'll see you all again soon. Thanks.